We are going to go back to our file manager. And we'll go back to the root of our Drupal directory. So this is clean Drupal install. There's been nothing done with it. So I'm going to go into the themes folder. Actually, first you can see the core folder. That's where all of Drupal core's files are. And if you need to look at what another theme has done or copy some code from there, you can go into core, then themes, and here's Classy or Bartik is a good example to look at. And then you can copy code from there. And we're going to go back to the root of the directory. Here's themes. Oh, it's empty. Good. We can create a new folder. So it's March. It's almost St. Patrick's Day. My son has been talking about leprechauns in school and learning French words for all the farfadet and all the leprechauns characters. So we're going to call this theme Leprechaun. I'm going to create a folder for it. So Leprechaun with a lowercase, that's going to be the name of our theme. And I'm going to go over to my code editor over here. And we've got this all set up here. Here's my Leprechaun folder. And this will let me create a new file. And I'm going to create my info file. leprechaun.info.yaml. So I'm ready to go, and I could go painstakingly through this and hand type everything and really be careful to make sure that I have the syntax correct. But you're probably never going to do that in the real world. You're going to go into core and find another theme. We'll go to Classy. It's probably useful to take a look at Classy's info file. Here it is. Name Classy. It's a theme. There's its description. It's got all this core information in here. And some couple simple libraries that Classy provides. It provides normalized.css. And it's extending some of the existing libraries from Drupal core, but we won't go into how that works right now. So we're just going to copy all this, paste it into our Leprechaun file. All right, and copy. There we go. Then we'll just change the names of stuff. No. Okay, there's some weird keyboard shortcuts in here. Okay, I'm sorry. This is a weird file manager. Leprechaun is a theme. It's like this has Vim keyboard shortcuts or something, and I don't know how to use them. Okay, it's green theme for March. Although it is very much not green out here today in Waterloo, Ontario. It is snowing and blowing and blustery and windy. Winter is not over yet. Okay, we don't need any of this. We're going to provide a basic library. We'll call it global styling. And then we're also going to need some regions. And I'm going to hope I get the syntax right for this. Maybe I better check Bartik. I'm going to go back over here. There's Bartik. There's Bartik's info file. Okay, see, Bartik's info file has a lot more stuff in it, right? So it has all these CK editor style sheets. I don't know what it's doing with that. And it has lots and lots of regions. I usually prefer to keep my regions to a minimum. So what we need here, region, 2 spaces, machine name of region. Again, anything that's a machine name in Drupal needs to be all lowercase, only underscores, no other special characters. So I think we can handle that, right? going to do a header. This text editor is driving me crazy. We're going to do, usually I like to have an admin section in Drupal 8. Everything that you place with content is a block now. So things like messages used to be able to print right into the page template file, but we don't do that anymore. Messages, tabs, all that sort of stuff that Drupal's going to use for administrative purposes. We might want to put that in its own region. Probably have a menu. We'll call this main menu. And content, the content region is required. I better load that. And we'll probably want a footer. Should we have a sidebar too? We'll try to make sure these are capitalized. Yeah, let's do a sidebar too. Okay, so there's our info file. Now let's see what happens when we go into our Drupal admin interface. Here we are in our basic Drupal installation. Let's see if our theme is showing up. Oh boy. Okay, something might be wrong. I might need to better clear the cache. Oh. Okay then. Oh, there we go. It's actually telling me something. Missing required keys core and themes lexicon info.yaml. Oh, core is required in here. Okay. Okay, see if that is any better. There we go. Now we can get to the appearance screen. Let's see if my leprechaun theme is appearing here. There it is. So this is really all we need to create a theme. We just need to create a YAML file, a folder for it. The machine name matches the name of the folder, and we can install this. It's not going to do anything right now. It's going to look like that screenshot of Stark right here, but it's a start, right? We've created it, it works, it's showing up. We can install this and set it as the default. Let's see what happens. There it is. It doesn't have a screenshot yet. We haven't made one. We can go to the home page of the site, and this is what it looks like. There's stuff there. Of course, it's up to you to provide all the layout and the CSS and everything like that, and follow along with the next two parts of this series to find out how to do that. If we go to the block layout, we'll see that my leprechaun theme has been set as the default, and all the regions that we've just created are here. So what we're going to do is maybe move some things around. We can put all our admin stuff in the admin region. There's help, there's tabs. You might want to put page title in its own region depending on your page layout. Let's see, the main navigation will move to the menu. Tools, we'll say we don't need that. User account menu, maybe we'll put that in the footer. Powered by Drupal, if you want to be nice to Drupal, you can put that up. Status messages, we put in our admin stuff area. We have a footer menu here. I'm going to put that in the footer. Breadcrumbs, where do you want your breadcrumbs? Before or after the title? Before the title. Again, you might want another region for your breadcrumbs depending on your page layout. And your header is going to have your site branding and your search. Save that. Now, one thing I'm going to caution you about is that if you enable a theme and set up the regions and you decide not to go ahead with using it, you need to go back to the appearance and uninstall it. I've run into a couple problems before with doing that and then not uninstalling the theme and then deleting the folder and then once you get into exporting your configuration, you'll find that all the configuration for those blocks from that theme that you deleted is still there. And Drupal's going to try and export it, and then you're going to have a problem because it'll balk when you try and import it into a new site. It says, we don't know what that theme is you're trying to implement. So just make sure that if you decide not to use a theme, that you uninstall it. And then it's going to erase all those block settings we just did, and it won't try and export that configuration. So what's next? We're going to make that library. Let's go back to our file manager. And we'll go back to where our leprechaun theme was. There we go. And we will see that here's our info file that we've made. We're going to make a folder for our CSS. We're going to make a folder for our JavaScript. If we have some, we're going to make our folder for our images. And we'll make a folder for templates. Now, so there's our scaffolding for our theme. We have a place to put our CSS. We have a place to put our JavaScript. If we make some, we'll go back to our code editor here. And here's our leprechaun.info in our leprechaun folder. We will make another new file. And here we'll call it leprechaun.libraries. I'm going to do the same thing with this that I did with copying and pasting the basic structure for the YAML file, because we don't want to mess up that syntax and have to painstakingly type it all out ourselves and risk making mistakes. So we'll grab Classy's libraries file. See, here's another interesting thing that you can see in Classy's is they're defining weight. And this is what can go in the squirrely brackets with JavaScript in particular. If you want to change the weight that that script is ordering, then you can do that inside these squirrely brackets. So this is probably actually not a good example to be copying. I think we might copy Bartik instead. Okay, that's a bit better. It's got lots and lots of CSS files. You can see that all their components have their own CSS file separately. And if you have a big complicated theme, you might want to do that too. But you know, how you structure your CSS is completely up to you. You're free to do that however you feel is best. So here's a basic one. We'll just copy that and rename it. I don't really know if the version actually needs to be here. I'm going to take it out and see. So we're going to call this no. Global styling. I don't think this version needs to be there. I don't usually use it. So we have a CSS. We have component CSS files. We're going to go in our CSS file. And we're just going to start with one. I don't know what this pre-process false does, actually. I'll take that out. So we're going to have one global.css file. And that's good for a starting point. We don't need these brackets here. I'm going to say this is our one little simple library. We'll create this global.css file here. I'm going to put something in here. Oh, yeah, we'll do some silly leprechaun stuff just to make sure that we can see that our theme is working. And go back to our installation. Now we've added some files. So anytime you add some files to your theme, you're going to want to clear the cache. And next week we'll talk more about how to run developer mode, where you don't have to be doing this all the time. Although you still have to clear cache when you're creating new files, but it won't, otherwise it won't pick up even changes to files. So there it is. it's green. It's picking up our CSS, and you can really go from there. So we've just got a starting point. You can layer in your CSS however you feel best to do it, and however you need to do it to implement your particular layout. Right now we have the markup that Drupal has created for us. So next time we will find out more about how to modify that markup in part 2 of theming from the ground up, templating with Twig, and we'll also learn about how to override Drupal's HTML output. If I inspect this using my debugger here, I always like to keep it on the right side. So we can see all the HTML that Drupal's output. Here's our page template block. You can see that it's put the name of our theme in there. You know what? I didn't define a base theme here, did I? We did not do that. Let's go back and do that. So we'll go back to our info file. I can just tell by the lack of classes here. You can see that there is very, very little classes. So this is what happens when you don't specify a base theme. It's going to use Stark, which is going to use Drupal's core markup. So you can see there's almost no classes in here, right? You just get an ID, which Drupal's going to use. And if I was not logged out, let's load this in an incognito window and we'll see what happens when you're not logged in. You have to a little bit notice the differences between what's actually going to be there for logged in users. And you can see there's a little bit more of this contextual IDs and things like that, which can get a little bit messy when you're trying to sort through the code and figure out which selectors are there. One thing that always throws me off is that if you have contextual links turned on, this contextual class will add a position relative to stuff. So the contextual region will have position relative. So if you notice things get screwed up a little bit when you are not logged in, you might want to make sure to check and make sure that you weren't working with this position relative that was on contextual region, which is provided by default, and you only see it when you're logged in. So that's one of the differences. Let's go back and add Classy as our base theme now. And Classy is our base theme. I'm going to go back to my Drupal installation here and clear the caches again. So I can go back to the site. And you can see it looks different, right? So Classy's provided normalized.css. It's normalizing a lot of the default markup, default CSS that's provided by the browser. And you can see there's a lot more happening in here. So if I can bring up that other window, this is the incognito one. Yeah, you can see the difference, right? So it's providing a sans serif font as a default, obviously, and some of the spacing and margins are different. You can see that it's normalized the margins around the form, for example. And you can see that here's Stark, which has almost no classes, and here's Classy. So now Classy has added a lot of classes. So you can see here on the block. So for example, block that's a core block, page title block. So this gives you a lot more to work with, and if you don't have another alternative base theme that you like or particularly want to use, and this is probably a good starting point. Personally, I find Classy's classes to be a bit too classy. I have toyed around with making my own base theme, but haven't gotten that far with it yet. It's a lot of work. So Classy's a reasonably starting point, and next time we'll talk more about using Twig, and we'll also look at how you can use Twig to add and modify and change the classes that are being added to any particular template file. And that's really all I wanted to cover for today. Next time we'll talk more about Twig, as I mentioned, and templating, and really get into some of the power of Drupal theming and the structure of how the template files work, which can be a little bit difficult to understand for people who are new to Drupal theming. So I hope to see you next time. I believe that will be on March the 24th, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for watching.